For this video series, we're going to be working on a lot of different bag drills for generating power, and we're going to be stressing the idea of using that relaxed internal power that's so common in Tai Chi, or should be used in Tai Chi, rather than muscular strength like is used in a lot of external styles. Now, the reason that I'm making this video series is twofold. One of the reasons is that I require my students to know all of these drills as they progress toward their intermediate ranks. And I've also received a request to make a video series that explains some different Fa Jin or explosive internal power drills. Normally, the way that I start my students off with their learning of Fa Jin and expressing power, internal power anyway, is that I have a set of long pull exercises that they can use to learn to send that power all the way out to the pole that they're working with as they learn to generate it from the body. But unfortunately, the pole that we were using for that wasn't a very good pole. We ended up breaking it during practice, and I haven't had a chance to replace it because the long poles tend to be fairly expensive. So instead of making a video series with those exercises in it, I decided to start with the video series on bag drills because it's really easy to get into kind of a false sense of security when you're working on just solo drills and generating Fa Jin or explosive power, or any other type of power that's expressed in Tai Chi. And then when you go to a bag, you're not used to actually making contact with anything. You're not used to transferring that power into something. You're just used to doing it by yourself. So bag drills can be very useful as a starting place. As you start to get used to the body motion that goes into these different movements, you can start very light on a bag, and then as you become more and more used to it, then you can start to develop power and learn how to transfer that power into something rather than just transferring that power into empty space. Now, there's nothing wrong with solo drills. They're very good when you're doing just Fa Jin drills and you don't actually have a target, because that helps you develop your focus and it helps you develop and perfect the movements without something interfering with it, like a bag. But bag drills are a very nice place to start as well. So in the future, I intend to make some videos where I show different Fa Jin drills that you can do solo without a bag or without a pole. And when I'm able to actually replace the long pole that we had, then I'll be able to make some videos showing the exercises for releasing Fa Jin into a pole. Some important things to remember as you're practicing these: whenever you're generating internal power, the idea is that you're depending on your body's motion, your body's structure, and the way that everything is moving together in unison to generate the power, rather than muscular strength to just push your way through using your muscles. Obviously, you do have to use your muscles to get your body to move, but the idea is you want as little tension as possible to allow the body to move very freely. The power is always going to come from your base. So what I mean by that is, when you stand in whatever stance you'll be in for any of these exercises, before you attempt to generate any power or any force in your strikes, you want to make sure that you have your root established. So you want to feel like you either have roots going out the bottoms of your feet, growing into the ground, or that your feet are sunk several inches into the ground, or that they're glued to the ground, whatever it is that you need to imagine or focus on, so that you feel that attachment to the floor. Your feet are completely in contact with the floor. You're not rocked forward on your toes or have most of your weight on your heels. Everything should be connected. The next thing that you want to do is make sure you have a slight bend in your knees, and your hips need to be free to move. This is where the power is directed to various parts of your body. So you have your root established. You can draw power from either leg, but it needs to be directed by the waist in order to give it any sort of useful manifestation in a technique. So if you were going to do a punch, for example, you would start with the power here coming up through this leg. It would compress, and then your body motion would send the punch out. And that body motion is what supplies the power. It's not your arm strength pushing into it. It's everything working together. When you're working with a bag, you're also going to have a recoil, something that pushes against you. So you want to make sure that you have good structure when you do these strikes, so that you don't end up hurting your wrist if you're punching, or hurting your elbow if you're punching. You don't want to hyperextend the elbow. You want to make sure that the wrist is lined up. So it's always good to start with little or no power and just work on the body motion, and just sit there and punch the bag several times, whichever exercise it is that we're doing, whether you're using pung or whatever it is. Work on the body motion. Work on it coming from this back leg, traveling up through you, being directed by the waist. As you begin, it's not a bad idea to keep a lot of your focus in your lower dantian, and that motion of the lower dantian making the rest of the body move. So the motion from here makes this happen. This doesn't happen by itself. The motion from here makes this happen. So it all works almost like a wave. It all works together, and if you have one part that's out of alignment or not working in unison with everything, that's where you lose power, that's where you waste motion, and a lot of times that's where you can get injured. So you want to make sure that everything moves together smoothly as it comes through. Whatever motion it is that we're doing on the bag, make sure that the whole body works together. Make sure that the power is coming from the base and through, and that you're not just depending on upper body strength. You want to be as relaxed as possible. Now, in Tai Chi, it's always stressed to use as little muscle as possible and be as relaxed as possible. But sometimes that's misunderstood, and people end up going limp with their motion. So you have to remember that there is still energy moving through the arm, that you still have good structure. It's just structure without excess tension. So when you're told to relax, it means let go of the tension that is not absolutely necessary to maintain a good structure in your technique. So as you do these different bag drills, you're going to stay as relaxed as possible, especially when you're going into a motion, into a strike. But as soon as you make contact with the bag, there's a certain amount of tension that you have to hold to maintain your structure, so you don't just turn into jelly. If I'm coming up to this bag to hit it and I maintain structure, I can put power into it. But if I'm too relaxed and I hit the bag, then it's like, you know, the bag just got hit by a bowl of jelly. It's not like any actual force was put into it. So you have to remember that even though a lot of these techniques that we'll be doing will seem very not Tai Chi, because they seem a lot more forceful than people are used to seeing in Tai Chi, there are two sides of Tai Chi. There's the yin and the yang. So a lot of the exercises, a lot of the drills that we'll be doing in this video series are going to seem very strange as far as what people are used to seeing in Tai Chi. Usually Tai Chi is very soft, very flowy, but this is where Tai Chi's soft and hard kind of come together. There's always the yin and the yang in Tai Chi, and if you always focus on the one without the other, then you lose a lot of the usefulness of Tai Chi. That being said, there shouldn't be excess yang, or there shouldn't be excess tension, but there also shouldn't be excess yin. Like I was saying earlier, you can't just be a jellyfish when you go to do a technique in Tai Chi. You have to put at least as much tension as necessary to maintain the structure, but still be soft enough that you can flow with whatever comes in, whatever it is that you're having to deal with. So the two ideas interplay, the tension and the relaxation. Just make sure there's no excess tension. The tension's only going to be there as long as it needs to be there to maintain the structure for transferring the power into whatever it is that you're striking, and then it's going to disappear as much as it can without making your arms drop and making you fall on the floor like a puddle. So even here, if I'm super relaxed in this stance and I can still move everything around because I'm so relaxed, notice that I'm still maintaining a structure. There has to be at least some muscle tension for this arm to stay up. If I completely relax the arm, it does that. So when I say no tension, I mean no excess tension. So there's a difference. If I come here and I do this and tense up all of the muscles in my upper body, I'm still holding the same structure, but I'm wasting a lot of energy that doesn't need to be wasted, and I'm using that energy in ways that are not helping my stance and not helping what it is that I'm trying to accomplish here. But if I relax too much again, everything falls. So you want to maintain just enough to maintain your structure, just enough tension to maintain your structure, and then relax as much as possible after a strike is delivered to the bag. Just enough tension, and then relax. So it's relaxed, tiny bit of tension, just enough to maintain your structure at the point of contact, and then you relax again. Now, as you do these exercises, there's a lot of whipping motion that happens from the waist. Something that you have to realize is that a lot of the ligaments and tendons of your body that are holding things in place aren't used to having that whipping motion happen. So as you start really light. Allow your body to adjust and get used to that. As you do these whipping motions where you have a punch going, or you have something else going on where you're hitting the bag, or generating power by body motion, be careful that you don't jerk yourself around so that you're hurting your internal organs or shifting them around too hard. The motion should be smooth into it, and the power should be traveling both this way, and any power that's coming back should be traveling back down the back leg. So if I throw this punch, if I encounter something that I'm hitting, it's going to send force back down. Well, I don't want to just absorb that into my body and shake my organs up. I want to hit and release all the energy that I have to offer into this, but that counter force, when I make that contact, should be directed back down that back leg into the ground rather than absorbed by my internal organs and by shaking my body. I want to let it sink down into the floor. The other thing to remember as you do this is to think of your body kind of like a spring. There's a bit of compression that happens before a spring can expand. If you have the spring at equilibrium, it's neither pushing or pulling. If you compress it a little bit, then it begins to exert force in the opposite direction. So if you can compress a little bit, think of your body as a spring, and then you can pop out from there, then that aids in your power generation rather than just depending on the twisting of the hips. Think of it as a compression where you're building that power, not tensing, just compressing, and then it can pop out from there in a relaxed manner, being generated by the body motion and that compression. So the things to remember: establish your root. The power comes from the root, is directed by the waist, flows from the lower belly, the motion of the lower belly, and that motion of the lower belly directs the power to the upper body wherever it needs to go. So stay relaxed, just enough tension to maintain the structure that you need for each of the techniques. Start really, really light, and the power will come as you practice. Don't try to put power into it before you're ready. Just worry about the technique as you do it, whether it's a punch or an elbow strike or pung, whatever it is. Just worry about the technique, and even if the bag is just moving a tiny, tiny bit, even if you're pung, when you come in, the bag is just going like that. You come in, and it just does that. Don't worry about it. Don't cheat yourself and try to muscle your way through so that you hit the bag harder. It's better to hit the bag light and practice good technique. And eventually, as your body gets used to it, as it gets stronger in the way that it's able to generate this internal power, you'll eventually be able to put more and more force into the strike that you're doing. Anyways, I hope you find this video series very useful. I hope it aids you in your training. And I hope that if you are training and you want to practice with a partner but don't have a partner to practice with, some of these bag drills will give you someone to practice with, even if they're not very responsive. So thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the series. So I want to tell you all about the latest product from the Pure Trim company. At least this is the latest one as of the time of this filming. It's called Liver Master, and it's basically an herbal blend for your liver. I'll tell you what I've noticed since I've started using it. It's supposed to be used on like a 90-day kind of liver program that you can go on. And what I've noticed is that I sleep better, and my energy seems to be a little bit more even through the day instead of having a lot of peaks and valleys. It tends to just kind of carry through. So I don't know if you'll have the same experience, but it might be worth trying out. So you can find out more about Liver Master, what's in it, what it's used for, if you visit the website that's at the bottom of the screen. I hope you try it out, and I hope you learn to love it as much as I do. Check it out, Liver Master.